Does anybody care about rideshare drivers anymore? Let's talk about it. Welcome everyone, I'm Mark. This is Mark's Travel Time. If you're new to the channel, I'm going to ask that you click my face in the corner to subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell icon up above. That way you'll know when I post new videos. There is so much going on in rideshare, but it seems like nobody focuses on the needs of the driver. And I'm not talking about PROAC, I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about very basic things like driver safety. So I want to read 3 stories that came across. It was kind of funny because this is the order the stories came in. And it's one of those that make you scratch your head and say, what are people thinking? Okay, here's the first one. Of course, it's out of Chicago. An 18-year-old man has been charged with the carjacking of a rideshare driver. What a shock. Cornelius Carr, 18, was charged with felony counts of vehicular hijacking with a firearm and armed robbery. According to police, Carr was arrested on March 15th after he was identified as the offender who took a vehicle by force from a 28-year-old rideshare driver in the 1100 block of West 95th Street. Carr is expected to appear in bond court on Tuesday. And I'll bet you dollars to donuts that if we follow up on this, that guy gets bond. Maybe even his own recognizance. Why? Because it's Chicago. Wait a minute, we're not done with Chicago. This next story. A rideshare driver was carjacked in the city's Lawndale neighborhood. The driver, 42, was on the 33300 block of West 16th Street around 1:20 a.m. How many times do I tell you nothing good happens after midnight with rideshare? Tuesday, when his vehicle was stolen by 3 men. Police said, sorry if you hear the wind outside. It's a beautiful day, but the wind is going through my palm tree. I can't help it. I'm still tickled by the fact that I have palm trees. So anyway, police said the driver arrived at the 3 passengers' destination when one person exited the car and approached the driver's side door, pointed a handgun, and demanded he exit the car. The driver complied, and as he exited the car, one of the men struck him in the head with a gun. You know, all this is unwarranted violence. These are just creepy, hateful people. And I think it's a result of the city of Chicago. I honestly do. The guy was complying, he was getting out of his car, they had what they wanted, and yet they had to clock him in the head with a gun. The 3 men then fled north on Spalding Avenue in the driver's green Toyota Highlander. Police said the driver refused to go to the hospital. I always wonder that too. I think I know the answer. Because a lot of drivers probably don't have health insurance, or they don't have adequate health insurance. Even if you're on Obamacare, those are really high deductibles. You know, you got like an $8,500 deductible before insurance kicks in. And they just don't want to have to absorb that cost. So this guy has a head injury. Head injuries are probably the worst type of injuries you can have, because oftentimes you don't know until later when you're lying in bed and you die that you had anything bad going on. Then it's a little late to seek medical assistance. No one was taken into custody. Okay, notice whenever I read these stories, there is a preponderance of these that happen in that cesspool known as Chicago, Illinois. I've said many times before, it's got one good thing going for it. It's got a wonderful art museum, just incredible. And it's worth going to the city just for that. But don't take rideshare. So, why am I telling you these stories? Now, this next story didn't happen in Chicago, but I think these are indicative of what's happening nationwide. You have a lot of aggression, a lot of violence, a lot of carjacking against drivers. Most of the stories we read of assaults and things are aimed at drivers. Occasionally, you have a driver that does something to a passenger, and more often than not, we find out later it wasn't a real rideshare driver, right? We find out that it was someone posing as a rideshare driver. So, keep that in mind. To strengthen New Jersey statute, okay, as I said, you know, we're talking Jersey here, but still, I think if we look at the big picture, you're going to see my point. to increase penalties for certain crimes committed against who? Patrons of rideshare. Legislature sponsored by Assemblyman Gordon Johnson, Democrat, and Robert Karavinchak, Democrat, was released by the Assembly. And by the way, I'm not saying Democrat for any reason other than it's the D after their name in the story. Released by Assembly Judiciary Committee on Monday. At the end of 2019, Transportation Network Uber released a safety report revealing nearly 6,000 incidents of sexual assaults against passengers and drivers. Recently, Uber and Lyft shared the name of the drivers who were deactivated over sexual assault and other serious incidents. Okay, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, and I'd really like to know what a lot of these 6,000 cases were, if they were verbal. I would like to know how those numbers stack against similar instances of attacks and things that are happening against drivers. I'd like to see how that stacks up. But notice it does say in this story 6,000 incidents of sexual assaults against who? Passengers and drivers. That is skimmed over so quickly in the story. And it makes me wonder, why are we only focusing on passengers? Why doesn't this bill put some hefty penalties in place for those people who commit crimes against rideshare drivers? I think the drivers are in a far more dangerous position than the average passenger. You know, the passenger might run up against an Uber driver once, maybe twice a week in many cases. Drivers, we have to face those passengers, you know, sometimes a dozen times a day. And so it says we must ensure the crimes of sexual assault are met with some of the strongest penalties and punishments in New Jersey law. My question is, why are they focusing on rideshare? Shouldn't the crime itself be heinous enough? Do we really have to, you know, pick on assaults that happen by rideshare drivers? And again, I'm going to reiterate, people posing as rideshare drivers. I just think that it's crazy. As technology impacts public safety, New Jersey laws need to reflect the new reality created by rideshare services. Yeah, I think that what they're proposing, $20,000 fine, 10 to 20 years imprisonment, or both, and an aggravated criminal sexual contact is a crime of third degree, punishable by 3 to 5 years imprisonment, or up to $15,000 fine, or both. So the bill defines a transportation network company driver, or driver would mean a person who receives connections to potential riders and relative services from a transportation network. Nothing at all about crimes against those drivers by passengers. I think it's ridiculous. And I think that these people need to be called out. And I think Chicago, I know I'm going back to Chicago, because I think Cook County could just be cut off with a chainsaw and slide into Lake Michigan. The world would be much better. Sorry, Chicago. I just can't hold back. But these guys in Jersey, seriously, they're focusing on drivers and completely ignoring the aggression and assaults and crimes against the driver. It's insane. Well, what do you think? I would love to hear your opinion. As always, I encourage you to like and share the videos. Leave your comments down below. If you haven't already, please subscribe by clicking my face in the corner. And don't forget to ring that bell icon up above. That way you'll know when I post new videos. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm Mark, and this is Mark's Travel Time.